Figured we'd go live on a Monday. Nothing wrong with going live on a Monday, especially when it's March Madness. It's tournament time. Well, the American Conference tournament, at least for now. Florida Atlantic Voice PostUp, Wichita State edition, even though it is 2 days after the fact. And we're going into the American Conference tournament, which will start for FAU on Wednesday as the 7 seed against Temple. I am the voice of Florida Atlantic, Ken LaVicka. The Florida Atlantic Sports Network, Fox Sports 640, foxsports640.com, free Fox Sports South Florida app. That is where you listen to myself and Damon Arnett on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. We will be on the air 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time tip Wednesday for 7-seed FAU and 10-seed Temple. Now, with the conference tournament, it's always ish. You have to add an ish to the end of everything because very rarely does something start right on time. It just doesn't work like that. It is typically, I don't know, I would say in a good situation, like 10 minutes late. Normally, it's about 25 minutes late, and then sometimes you get overtime games, double overtime games, and a mess. So why don't we revise that? 8:30-ish pregame with a 9 p.m. Eastern Time-ish tip from Birmingham on the Florida Atlantic Sports Network. We're going to talk about the tournament. We're going to talk about the matchups. We're going to have multiples. We're going to have multiples, because if there's one thing I need you to know about me, Ken LaVicka, voice of Florida Atlantic, I'm packing for 5 damn games. I'm packing for an entire week. I'm packing for a trip to the NCAA tournament, okay? So if I can have a ridiculously large bursting suitcase, because I need to pack the shoes for the game, I need to pack the running shoes, I need to have all the workout clothes, I need to have the sweats, I need to have all 5 outfits for all 5 games. If I can pack like that, you can believe that Florida Atlantic can win 5 games in 5 days. Hey, Georgia Southern's done it in the Sun Belt. They've won 5 straight games. They tonight are looking for a 6th. They're looking to get themselves into the NCAA tournament as the first team ever to win 6 straight in a league tournament. So I guess what I'm saying is believe, damn it, believe. I don't want to go any further without acknowledging Robes Law Group, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com. They are the presenting partner of the Florida Atlantic Voice, and they are the single best damn, most dependable, most reliable personal injury lawyer you're going to find in all of South Florida, and there are a lot of them. It's a crowded industry. We know that. Robes Law Group, not only are they going to take care of you in an accident, a motorcycle accident, a slip and fall, they also are massive Florida Atlantic fans. They believe in the athletics department. They believe in FAU. They are part of the fan base, and Robes Law Group, they're the ones who present the Florida Atlantic Voice. This a post-up edition. That Wichita State final 8 minutes, that was rough. That was a tough watch in that 88-70 loss. And I think that, one, that building was electric. That's as good as it gets. And I think that the Ellie, when it's jam-packed, and I think Coke Arena there in Wichita, those are the 2 toughest. When there's a lot to be played for, when it is a marquee matchup, those are the 2 toughest venues in the entire league to go to and win. I mean, listen, I've seen USF jam-packed, heard USF jam-packed. It's all right. Memphis, it's all right. Those places are, in my opinion, a little bit too cavernous to give you the full road venue effect. I think that the Ellie and I think that Wichita State take the cake with that for different reasons. The LE, because it's so small, it's so daunting. The fans are on top of you. It's a wall of sound because the acoustics in there lend to that. I think at Wichita State, it's that bowl shape. It's got the metal roof. It bounces back down on you. That is a fan base that knows what it's doing from a basketball standpoint. They can be a little bit mean. It's hostile in there. It's been a while since they were playing for anything. That was the biggest crowd they've had since the Greg Marshall era at Wichita State. So FAU sort of walked into a little bit of a knives out parade there in Wichita and held their own. I mean, it's a 1-point game with 10:04 left to go. A 1-point game with 10:04 left to go. But then in the matter of 3 minutes, an 11-0 run, and the game was basically over at that point. And I think that what you saw in that game is the difference between, at least in the last 2 months or so, the difference between an FAU and the difference between teams that are top 4 in the conference, and that is FAU's inability, teams like USF, teams like Wichita State, teams like Tulsa, and teams like UAB that excel, thrive off of getting second and third chances on the same possession. FAU struggled against those teams. Florida Atlantic, all things considered, rebounding in the conference, they're number 4 in rebounding margin. They are number 4 in combined team rebounds. They're top half in combined opponent rebounds. But here's the problem. The top 4 in the league in offensive rebounds are USF and Wichita State and Tulsa and UAB. Florida Atlantic went, figured it out, beat UAB at full strength. Florida Atlantic got absolutely devastated in the second chance category against USF back on the 19th of January, when everything started to fall apart a bit for Florida Atlantic. Not a bit, for the first time, really fall apart due to injuries. So FAU also had its struggles against Tulsa on the offensive glass and in the second chance. And then Florida Atlantic certainly had its problems both games against Wichita State. It gets lost in the throttling that FAU delivered Wichita State back in January, a game that was a 29-point game at one point. But I think that hid what was really one of the only concerning aspects of the night, and that's the fact that Florida Atlantic was on the wrong end of second chance points, 13-5. Florida Atlantic was on the wrong end of second chance points, 18-4 on Saturday at Wichita State. I mean, you look at that combined, 2 games against Wichita State this year, and you are outdone in the second chance points category, 31. Let's see, 18-13. No, I'm an idiot. 30-9. There we go. I knew I was going to figure it out. 30-9. FAU is beating up second chance points combined by Wichita State this year in a season split. So it hasn't been a problem for the entire season for FAU. Florida Atlantic got the better of Charlotte and Temple and several teams throughout the course of the conference season. But especially the last 2 leading to that Wichita State game, FAU won the second chance battle. But against the teams that are all in the top 30 in the nation in second chance points, and Wichita State was number 4 in the country in offensive rebounds. Wichita State is number 1 in the country in consecutive games with 10 or more offensive rebounds. That's shown in a disturbing way because Florida Atlantic had no answer for it. So first and foremost, why did FAU lose at Wichita State outside of things cratering at the midway point of the second half? FAU drying up offensively and Wichita State going on its run. FAU unable to withstand that run or be in a position to advantageously navigate through it because Florida Atlantic they bloodlet second chance points. That's the bottom line. FAU bloodlet second chance points. 18-4. 12 offensive rebounds for Wichita State. 18 second chance points. I mean, how efficient is that? How deadly is that? You're really not overcoming that. And I'm not quite sure I've seen that level of proficiency in converting second chance opportunities than that. And the most maddening thing that if he had hair, John Jacobs would be pulling his hair out over is the fact that I would say of the 12 offensive rebounds, 6 of them, of the 18 second chance points, I should say, I think 8 of them came on third or fourth chances. I mean, think about it. Right before halftime, you have a chance to go to halftime either tied or with the lead, and you will allow a fourth chance tip-in by Berg, lumbering Berg, the Purdue transfer, the backup big man for Wichita State, to just get his right middle fingertip near the rim and tip it in on a fourth chance. I mean, that stuff's deflating. And there have been times this year where second chance, FAU has been hit with threes off the second chance. I mean, look at USF. That happened against USF. FAU didn't win because on a second chance that landed between 3 players, Enos got a 3 in the corner. Look at the Tulsa game. A rebound that fell between 3 FAU rebounders, and it led to a 3. Look at Tulane, it was Charlotte. FAU almost lost to Charlotte on a second chance 3. So this stuff, it needs to get cleaned up, and it matters. I will acknowledge that your leading rebounder and your best rebounding guard, Devin Vanterpool, he's missed the last 5 games. So that means something too. The only game where Florida Atlantic got appreciably bodied on the offensive glass and got banged up on second chance points was USF, the first edition, with a full lineup, with a full healthy lineup until the final minutes when Caden Carlisle suffered their injury that sort of pulled the trap door on FAU's conference championship hopes. That's the only game fully healthy that FAU was roundly, overwhelmingly, convincingly beaten second chance points. Everything else was close or FAU won it. So that is why FAU, the main factor, I think, FAU lost to Wichita State like they did. Offensively, I think FAU ran out of some ideas in the final 8 minutes. It was pretty clear that the only one he was able to get to his spot, get his shot off, was Caden Carlisle. And he did a good job of doing that, but just couldn't get anything to fall. Free throw line, elbow, just couldn't get anything to roll in off the rim. And man, did he put in major effort, and maybe tired legs are a part of it. That dude in the first half, unconscious. I mean, 20 points in the first half, finishes with 26. Wichita State did a better job on him in the second half, clearly. They also were allowed to get significantly more physical to the point of it looking like rugby in the second half as well. But Wichita State decided to keep riding with it, saw it wasn't going to be called, continued with it, and FAU just didn't have an answer. The game got a little too physical for FAU. Caden Carlisle tried. He absolutely tried. But other than Carlisle, there just wasn't a lot going on offense. Missed layups, and I think that a core of 4, Wichita State's starting 5-man, Batee, they were down there sort of patrolling the rim. That caused the likes of Maxime Logie and Devin Williams and Josiah Parker to have to think about it a little bit. Josiah Parker, he was trying to get that big body in there, but they timed his shots well, swatted him a couple of times. He turned it over a couple of times. FAU was sloppy with the basketball in critical moments. Isaiah Elohim, especially in the first half, was making his way to the paint, but he was putting his head down, and that's when Wichita State defenders would start slapping at the ball. That would get them out on the run. So, listen, it's hard to go to Wichita State and win. There's a reason it didn't happen often this year, especially Wichita State, credit to them. When they came into Boca and got slapped around and embarrassed and muddied and swirlied, they could have thrown up the white flag, said, we're done. Paul Mills could have faced questions about his job vociferously for the rest of the year. And what did they do? They went to USF. They won in double overtime in that game, right after losing to FAU, their ugliest performance of the year, and they rode from there. They were a deserving 2 seed in the American Conference Tournament. They're going to be tough. They legitimately could win the tourney and go to the NCAA tournament, so credit to them. But I also don't think there's a massive gap between Wichita State and Florida Atlantic. Not full strength. Jump in the comments, by the way. Jump in the comments. We are on Twitter live. We are on YouTube live. This is the Florida Atlantic Voice post-up. Before I get to my point, go ahead and get in the chat. What are your questions? What are your comments? What are your thoughts? Wide spectrum of FAU basketball. I don't care. We're just hanging out. That's what we're doing on a Monday night. You've got nothing better to do on a Monday night. Start of your work week. Monday sucked. It's busy. You're facing the prospect of the rest of the week. Distract yourself with me. Jump in the chat. Let's talk some FAU basketball. Let's talk some American Conference Tournament. Oh, by the way, the ladies, the FAU women, they are in action tomorrow, 1 o'clock to start their American Conference Tournament run. And I say run because it's going to be a run. And Leanne Freeland, FAU head basketball coach, I bet just like me, she's packing 5 different outfits for 5 different games to win the American Conference Tournament. I know it. And that's the type of confidence that you should be conveying as well. If I'm packing 5 outfits for 5 games in the American Conference Tournament, I fully plan on FAU playing at 3:15 Eastern time on Sunday on CBS from Birmingham. We'll see you there, okay? So the chat is open. Jump in the chat. Let's hang out, okay? But I think it's become abundantly clear that Florida Atlantic at even 90% full strength, at least within their top 8, the depth just isn't there. At least from a balanced standpoint, both sides, offense and defense. Because look, FAU 6-1. FAU is rolling. FAU looks like the best team in the American. FAU is tops in the American Conference, 6-1. And then you lose Carlisle, and you lose Devin Vanterpool, and you lose Maxime Logie the very next game. Neither of those 3 win. And you found out about Vanterpool and you found out about Logie minutes before tip-off. So nothing great's going to happen in that spot, okay? There's just no time to adjust anything. But that about the 5-6 minute mark of the game against USF is where everything changed, because you look at the top 8. Suddenly you lost Carlisle. Suddenly you lost Vanterpool. Suddenly you lost Logie. So you lose Carlisle for 5 games, for the exception of East Carolina, where he couldn't move in the first half and played 3 minutes of the second half. We didn't see him again for another 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So you lose Carlisle for that stretch of time. You get Carlisle back, or you're about to get Carlisle back when Logie finally comes back with his foot problem, and you promptly lose Vanterpool, whose foot basically blew up 3 times its original size, taking that bad step late in the USF game, and despite that injury, still hitting the game-tying layup to force overtime. But he hasn't been able to play. And I know it's driving him crazy, too. But that's my point. You've got 3 guys in the top 8, 2 starters of your 3-man backcourt, and then Maxime Logie, who is your most athletic, physically imposing big, with the best offensive acumen for Florida Atlantic, at least at the 5 spot. And if you don't have those 3 in your top 8, FAU has shown it's not going to be able to win consistently. Can they win? Yes. Can they compete for a conference championship? Not sure. And again, that's just what your eyeballs see, right? That's what the results show. This team was not the same, has not been the same since the injury started with Carlisle. Then it went to Vanterpool, who got the flu and wasn't right for 2 games. Really, the first 2 games after he came back from the flu, he wasn't right. And then Logie goes down, and then Vanterpool goes down, and then Carlisle comes back, and then Logie comes back. Logie promptly breaks his nose and still playing, so good for that. But we're still waiting on Vanderpool. So again, I don't think I'm saying anything that any of you don't know or haven't been able to glean, is that this team with the top 8 championship caliber, which is why if Devin Vanderpool comes back and he feels anywhere close to like 80% for the conference tournament, you feel like, oh, here we go. Because FAU, we know, is better than a 7 seed. FAU full strength, I think, is not playing at the very least until Friday, and maybe in the discussion for Saturday. But instead, just it wasn't as much room for absence as we maybe thought early in the year with this FAU team. Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Rose Law Group. Anthony is in the chat. Thank you for hanging with us here, Anthony. Any thoughts on our side of the bracket? Why, yes, I do have thoughts on our side of the bracket. Thank you for that, Anthony. So FAU is the 7 seed. It's going to be the 7-10 FAU and Temple round 3 this year. Mike Jarvis, when he was the head coach at Florida Atlantic, he would say it pretty consistently. It is so difficult to beat a team 3 times in a year. That's the toughest thing, is to beat a team 3 times in a season. And it is hard because there's no hiding anything any longer. There's really nothing you're going to catch the other team off guard with. You know what you are. They know what you are. You know what they are. Personnel doesn't really change. The tendencies really don't change. It's just who's going to go out there and hoop. Who's going to go out there and make winning plays. And both these games have been close. The one in Philadelphia, Florida Atlantic was frigid. Absolutely frigid from 3 after the first 2 minutes of the game, and then finally found some distance, courtesy of Devin Vanderpool and Xander Pintelon in the final couple of minutes. Kanan Carlisle had a ridiculous 3-point play, and Josiah Parker had the best 6 minutes of his season. And FAU won 78-73. That was win number 5 of the first 6 games of the conference season for Florida Atlantic. And then FAU able to beat Temple 77-73 about a week and a half ago at the LE, coming back from down double figures in that game. Temple was up 11 with 2:04 left to go in the first half. Florida Atlantic, by the time halftime came, was down 5, and FAU played a significantly better second half and outscored Temple 39-29. But these games have been close. But despite the fact that it's hard to beat a team 3 times, and that's completely understandable, it's completely rational, and it's true, FAU has actually done it each of the last 3 years. FAU has beaten a team 3 times each of the last 3 seasons. Last year, it was former Owl Final Four-er Giancarlo Rosado and Charlotte that FAU beat 3 times. One there at Halton, one at the LE, and then went to Fort Worth and won. That's what sent FAU into the next round against Tulane. FAU in the first year of the American Conference Championship, the at-large NCAA year, FAU beat North Texas 3 times. Boca, the Nellie Davis buzzer-beating 3 to win it at North Texas, where FAU just bodied and outmuscled the Mean Green. And then FAU played an unbelievably complete game in Fort Worth to advance to the semifinal. And I don't know what happened. I still don't know what happened, because I thought for sure after that game against North Texas, which was just really fundamentally sound, and FAU threw its weight around, and FAU did a lot of good things. Then losing to Temple in the semifinal the way they did after it looked like with 8 minutes left to go, 7 minutes left to go in the first half, FAU was going to roll. They're up 15, and I still don't know to this day what happened. That's one of the most mysterious. That and Bryant. Those are the 2 most mysterious losses I've ever seen. Even Florida Gulf Coast, FAU came back sick. They came back off a high, beating Arizona. It was messy, probably feeling themselves a little bit. That Bryant one, beginning the 2023-2024 season, was bizarre. And then that Temple game in the American Conference Tournament, that was weird. All right, so I think we've established you can beat Temple. FAU's done it twice. Now you get them on a neutral floor. FAU the last 3 years has beaten a team 3 times. They were in the exact same situation last year as a 5 seed against Charlotte and we're able to find a way. So can FAU beat Temple? Yeah, of course. I feel fine about that because I've seen proof of concept, and I've seen it 2 different times. As long as you're able to keep Gavin Griffiths from going off for 20 points in the first half, like he did at the Ellie, and Florida Atlantic can keep Aiden Tobiasen from being a pain like he was in Philadelphia, and Florida Atlantic did a better job on Aiden Tobiasen for the most part in Boca. He scored 23 in Philly, 19 in Boca Raton, but he was 7 of 13 from the field. FAU is going to be in good shape. But you can't let Griffiths and Darian Ford and Aiden Tobiasen all beat you. And Florida Atlantic let Griffiths score 20 and Ford score 20 and Tobiasen score 19 and still found a way to win in Boca. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that a second time around. So you've just really got to be careful. Then there's Tulsa. Tulsa is one of those teams. North Texas, I'm sorry. Then there's North Texas. I don't know how I can't say that I would feel like FAU could win that game against North Texas. FAU should have won the first go-around against North Texas. FAU wins it if Johan Sissoko is able to make that layup point blank with his left hand, and somehow I still don't understand how it happened, and this was an issue all day in Denton. The Rams, FAU just could not get a roll. That ball just toilet bowls from front of rim to back of rim, rolls off the back heel of the rim. I would have won the game for FAU. Florida Atlantic wins the game if that layup goes with about a little over a second left to go. FAU, no matter what they did, got called for fouls as Terrell is just able to recklessly dribble into the paint, and at the mere entrance of someone within 3 inches of him got a whistle. That was frustrating. So if FAU can get into Thursday, and again, I'm packing 5 different outfits, so I'm planning on them getting to Thursday. Can FAU beat North Texas? For sure. For sure. I actually would say if FAU is on the other side, Charlotte, North Texas, Charlotte's on the other side, FAU's going to have North Texas. I feel fine with North Texas in that spot. I just do, and I think this team would want to get another shot at North Texas as well. Then there'd be Tulsa, and then there'd be Wichita State, and of course you'd have to play whoever's at the top of the bracket. Your 1 and 4 seeds there are UAB and USF. Tulsa, you lost at the buzzer. Isaiah Elohim could not complete what would have been a miraculous comeback. FAU, I mean, listen. You're down 3, you have 3 free throws, you make one of them. Then you force a turnover on the subsequent inbound, and you have a 3-pointer to win it. Wide open, and it didn't go down. Should we believe that Tulsa is going to smack FAU around? No. FAU shorthanded, that looked pretty even to me, right? And then Wichita State. FAU won the first matchup in blowout fashion. Wichita State looked despondent. Wichita State got the better of FAU thanks to a final 8 minutes against a shorthanded FAU on Saturday. But 1-1, splitting the season series. FAU won theirs by more than Wichita State did, and that was an 18-point game. Should we just dismiss that FAU can't win on a neutral floor? I mean, come on. And then UAB, USF, if it is them, they're 1 and 4 teams seeding-wise. FAU had a chance to win. Kenny Carlisle went for the kill shot, final seconds, overtime. I don't know. You tell me on a neutral floor if FAU could hang in there. I say yeah. UAB, Florida Atlantic already went to Birmingham and beat them. But one thing FAU is going to have to do if they do put themselves in that position, and I think it definitely starts with the North Texas game, FAU's got to stop giving up second, third, fourth chance opportunities and letting these teams convert on all of them. Because this is going to be a short trip to Fort Worth. Forget the injuries for a second, okay? Just on its face, if FAU is not able to keep teams off the second chance, then they're not going to win anything. They're not going to make it interesting. They're not going to put themselves in a position to win because all those teams, North Texas, Tulsa, and I'm not trying to sell short Temple, okay? But they're just not the caliber of offensive rebounding team that a North Texas, a Tulsa, Wichita State is. I mean, Wichita State, a good portion of their offense is offensive rebounds. Like, that's their thing. So that's just got to show up. It's got to travel to Birmingham. It has to. So that was Wichita State. What was weird about Wichita State, too, is before we got out there, the weather was really bad. A lot of severe thunderstorms in the area. It wreaked havoc with travel. My broadcast partner, Damon Arnett, didn't even make it to the game. He didn't even make it to the game. He got stuck in Dallas. He flew out, went to Dallas, was supposed to get into Wichita on Saturday morning, and I got a phone call late Saturday morning. Yeah, I'm not going to make it. I'm stuck in Dallas. That poor guy stuck in Dallas. Couldn't even make it to the game. Made a trip to Dallas for absolutely nothing. That sucks. That definitely sucks. But I was heartened to see that crowd. And jump in the chat, by the way. Get in the chat like Anthony did, and appreciate you, Anthony. Let's talk some FAU basketball. This is your chance. This is, for all intents and purposes, this is your sports talk outlet for FAU. Nobody else is going to talk FAU in South Florida, in Palm Beach County, in the Treasure Coast. No one else is taking your input. No one else is taking your questions, your comments on FAU from a live perspective. No one's doing that except me. Just like I was the only one back in the day, I'm the only one now. Okay? So Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Robes Law Group, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com. Jump in the chat. Get involved. Be a part of it. Let me know what you think, and we'll address all of it here on Twitter, on YouTube. Florida Atlantic Voice, post up. I was heartened to see Wichita State, that arena packed, full, to capacity, loud, violent, tense. I mean, that's a real deal atmosphere. And it hasn't been since Greg Marshall was dismissed. He'll say parted ways amicably. That did not happen. That was not the case. Once Greg Marshall left, though, and the job he did from 2007 to 2020 and the nonstop NCAA tournament appearances, the undefeated season en route to a 1 seed, the Final Four year in 2013, that place was one of the probably top 5 toughest road tests in the entire United States, in the entire sport. And then it just hasn't been since. FAU, the previous trip it made on Super Bowl Sunday 2 years ago, maybe a quarter or maybe a half full. Maybe. That team was bad. That was Paul Mills' first season. They hadn't really gotten it going yet. And even FAU, who that year was everybody's Super Bowl, they couldn't get it. There was just not a lot of interest on a Super Bowl Sunday especially. So it was good to see that thing like that because that's a great program. That's a historic program. So while it's in conference, it's good to see that thing back. It's good to see that thing back. Memphis, they've fallen off in a big way. Tulsa, they've fallen off in a big way until this year. It seems like they're making a resurgence. Wichita State, it's good to see. The conference is better overall when Wichita State is good, and I think when Tulsa gets back to levels that they were at in Danny Manning era, which was the last time that they were really any good from a conference championship standpoint. It's Hefe. We can hang with anyone if we cut out the bonehead turnovers and field goal scoring droughts for 4 minutes plus. Yeah. Listen, every team's going to go through scoring droughts. But FAU has also suffered a lot of kill shots this year, which is being on the wrong end of 10-0 runs. FAU hasn't delivered enough kill shots, and FAU has been on the receiving end of too many of those kill shots. So I would agree with that. The 4-minute scoring droughts aren't terrible. Don't sink you if you continue to play defense. But they do sink you when you allow a team to go on a 7-0, 8-0 run, maybe a kill shot 10-0 run. That's where it hurts. But FAU doesn't go on enough of those 10-0 runs. They don't. But they also can offset those by using consistent defensive effort. Bonehead turnovers, yeah. The turnovers hurt. There have been a couple of games, whether it's Memphis, whether it's USF at home. It's tough to overcome that amount of turnovers. It really is. I think East Carolina, if I remember correctly, turnovers were a big problem. But I think that the turnovers, really, it's going to sound weird, over the last 2 months, the turnover numbers have been okay. Now, have they been opportune at times? Sure. But as far as sheer numbers are concerned, outside of a couple, it hasn't been a massive, well, this is a huge problem type of scenario for FAU. But again, the offense, the eliminating the second chance points. I mean, that's so critical. I can't emphasize it enough. FAU, if it's going to go on a run, they're going to have to avoid North Texas getting second chance opportunities if they can get past Temple. Certainly against Tulsa, you got to put your ass into somebody. Certainly against Wichita State, you're going to have to sell your body out, especially the guards. The guards were, I think, the biggest issue rebounded against Wichita State. And I know you can only do so much. Those are some long, big guys there at Wichita State. That's a pretty big team. But the amount of 50-50 bowls that FAU lost on loose ball rebounds, that led to a lot of those opportunities. A lot of those opportunities for second and third chance points that more often than not, the vast majority of the time, Wichita State converted on. So I would say, this is just me, and appreciate you, Heffy. Great stuff as always. And you're right. But for me, on the checklist of things that need to be better for FAU to make a run, because we know they can, because we know with the top 8, this is a side that can compete for a conference championship, even if it's 5 games in 5 days. And we'll talk about Vanderpool in a second. You got to put your ass into somebody on the defensive class. You have to put your ass into somebody on the defensive class. You just have to. You have to. It's health. It's placing ass into opponent. There you go. Check. Right there. Chat's still open. YouTube, Twitter, get in. Let's chat. On a Monday night, Florida Atlantic Voice PostUp. The Wichita State edition, the American Conference Preview edition. Oh, I wanted to mention this as well. Congratulations to Mike Kennedy. 46 years. 46 years as the play-by-play voice of the Wichita State Shockers. He's seen absolutely everything. The bad, the good, the really good, the excellent, the national championship caliber. He's seen everything. 46 years as the play-by-play voice of Wichita State. He's an institution. I mean, I'm an old man, and I think I'm pretty synonymous with FAU now. And this is my 18th basketball season. Think of 46. And Wichita State doesn't have football. So basketball is king. That man, the voice of that basketball program, the voice of an entire region. I mean, that's an unbelievable career. What a legend. And for me, it was an honor. It was a thrill to be able to participate in his final regular season home game as the voice of Wichita State. If Wichita State goes to the NIT like they did last year, they could host. So you can't call it his last home game ever, last game ever at Coke, but last home regular season game. They've already honored him. They've already retired his quote unquote microphone in the rafters. So cool. So cool. And I asked him before the game how he was feeling, and he said, well, I'm focused on the job, focused on the task at hand. I'm sure as the clock ticks down, I'll feel it a bit. I'll have to fight emotions or at least process emotions. But that's a pro, man. Focused on the situation at hand. And of course, because I'm a nerd, I had to get a selfie with him. Actually, a picture with him because Genesis Silvestri, FAU Sports Information Director, took the photo because she does everything and really is my babysitter on the road. Thanks, G. Health-wise, this is the big question, and I know it's coming, and I know he's all that anybody wants to know about, and I get it, and I understand it, but I can't tell you much more about Devin Vanterpool than you already know. Because John Jacobs met with the media on Monday afternoon and said that Devin Vanterpool's been working, been going through, walk through, shoot around, boot off that you saw at a couple of the games over the last couple of weeks there at the LE. We closed out the regular year. But you don't know. Tomorrow's going to be big because he worked with the boot off today. What's the pain threshold going to be like for Devin Vanterpool on a Tuesday, one day before the start of the conference tournament? What's the swelling situation going to be? Folks, I'm telling you, there's a reason Devin Vanterpool has missed the last 5, and he hasn't really come close to being able to play. That foot that he injured against USF, I mean, that's as brutal an amount of swelling as I've seen in a non-broken foot or in a foot where the ligaments weren't just completely ripped to shreds. And I don't know anything about ortho. I don't, but I know what big fat feet look like and injuries look like. And I'm telling you, man, that Devin Vanterpool foot was a block of Spam. That's what it looked like. Big and soft and gross and protruding. We'll put it that way. So, is Devin Vanterpool close? He's probably getting there. He's to a point where I think you could probably describe John Jacobs as tantalizingly anxious. But again, there's no commitment for Wednesday for a reason because you just don't know. That foot injury is bad. Foot injury is bad. I can't believe he finished the USF game. Nobody even knew until he came back the next day, and then his whole foot had blown up. Like, that adrenaline just carried him through the game. He wasn't limping. He wasn't confined to one part of the floor. He wasn't restricted. And then all of a sudden, it blew up on him. So this is not a minor injury he suffered. This is not him just ticking out to the end of the year. 1, Devin Vanterpool never do that. And 2, this is a bad injury. So I don't know. All I can tell you is what I saw at Wichita, and that is Devin Vanterpool, knowing he's not going to play, at team shoot-around Friday night before the game, running around screens, taking threes, getting individual work in, participating with the team shooting drills, and then in an optional shoot-around on Saturday morning, early in the morning, a couple players are on the bus for that optional really early morning shoot-around. One of them, Devin Vanterpool, who knows he's not playing. Again, he knows he's not playing, and he's part of the group that's going over there at 8 a.m. to go shoot. So, guys, I'm telling you, he's trying. He is absolutely, unequivocally, desperately trying to get back on the floor. What doesn't help? Playing Wednesday. If FAU were to get that 4 seed like was in the cards, if they were to get the 4 seed not playing till Friday, I would feel extremely confident about 22 being back. I would feel okay about Devin Vanterpool being back if FAU could have gotten to that Thursday. But Wednesday, I don't know. I don't know if it's too tall an ask. But what I do know is that he's trying hard as hell. He is trying hard as hell. Mark, he messages, I want to make the NCAA tournament. I look forward to the day when we don't celebrate a 17-win season, because that's normally a good result for us, when we clearly underperformed in that effort. If our fate is the NIT, I'm all in, but I want to see us closer to the top of the AAC. Point taken, Mark, and I think that everybody does. Last year, FAU was a 5. This year, FAU was 7. It's so hard to gauge I I have been criticized by some of you for the last couple of weeks, and that's fine. Like I like I like you guys coming at me, going back and there is not. I'm about to present myself in a very self-congratulatory fashion, very ego inflating. But I don't think there's any play-by-play voice in the entire sport. Maybe in college sports, football, basketball, that provides as much from an opinion standpoint and allows as much of a platform to receive feedback and or opinions from the outside as me. And so that is why there's a point to me bringing that up. That is why I love when I get pushback on this stuff. I love when you guys disagree with me, because isn't that part of this? You respect me as the voice of the institution, and in turn, I respect your right to have an opinion. And if I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to go past the realm of calling the games and provide my thoughts on what's happening and create this platform for you in turn have every right to come at me, whether to agree or disagree. So, rightfully so, because I'm a homer. You know that. It's what I'm paid for. It's what I am. I'm the homer. I'm the voice. But I've been called an excuse maker for this FAU basketball season because of how much discussion has been laid out with injuries. Carlisle, Vanderpool, Logie. When you're talking all three of them, and it's not like it was a game here or there for Carlisle. It's not like it was a game here or there for Vanderpool. It was a series of injuries, series of time lost due to injuries, weeks due to injuries. If it was sporadic, lingering stuff, I mean, I would say, yeah, this was a disappointing season. John Jacobs, I mean, I don't know this, but I bet if he was talking to me right now, he would say, yeah, the injuries have been big, and you wonder what could have been. But I think he would probably use the D word, disappointing. I don't know. Probably, because he expects to be able to next man up this whole thing. But so, don't want to celebrate a 17-win season. Correct. I agree with you. I don't want to celebrate a 17-win season too. And I get when FAU went to the Final Four, especially, the days of being able to celebrate an above 500 season, it feels hollow, right? Feels like those should disappear. But there does need to be context involved in this, because think about what FAU was before Dusty May, when it was an above 500 year every year. And Dusty May struggled, didn't have a 20-win season until the Final Four year, was above 500 his first 4 years, but didn't win 20 games at any point in his first 4 years. It was all just above 500. And he had retainment on those rosters. That's one thing John Jacobs has not been able to enjoy. The roster he inherited all left for millions of dollars. And then the roster that he had last year that he developed, that thrived under him, they all opted to leave for high 6-figure, 7-figure money afterwards. Listen, there's nothing John Jacobs can do about that, okay? When Cincinnati comes coming to Bob Miller and says, hey, here's as close to $1 million as we can come, and some other sweetenings of the deal, if you will, Baba can't say no to that. And FAU and John Jacobs can't compete with that. When Xavier comes to Trey Carroll with 6-figure money, significant 6-figure money, what's Trey supposed to do? He's an FAU lifer, but come on. I mean, Montez Voititis is making 7 figures at Texas, and that's going to be even higher next year, okay? So all I'm saying, no, 17-win season shouldn't be celebrated. I like to try and put things in perspective. John Jacobs does have the most wins combined of any coach in his first 2 seasons at the helm of Florida Atlantic in its entire Division I era. Okay? That does mean something. That does mean something. That means something. Okay? John Jacobs has said, he's on the record, he's told me in private, 20 wins, 20 wins, 20 wins. You want to get to 20 wins. That's always the goal, get to 20 wins. If you get to 20 wins, you see what shakes out. Obviously, you'd love to go 31-0. It's hard to do. Congratulations, Miami of Ohio, who, by the way, should be in the NCAA tournament regardless of what happens. I think Akron's a better team. I think Akron's a better team in that conference, the MAC, the Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio is the one that's 31-0. But dare I say MAC, 2-bid league. And Bruce Pearl thinking that Miami of Ohio shouldn't get in because their schedule's not good enough. Okay, sorry, dude. I know you're going to bat for your son, Nepo coach there at Auburn. That team doesn't deserve to be in. That team's bad. Okay? But back to my point. 17 wins doesn't feel significant anymore because of the heights that FAU has achieved. But, again, Dusty May, that's the standard, right? That's always going to be the standard. Dusty, 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 Dusty. You realize with massive retention through his first 4 years, he never hit 20 wins. He never hit 20 wins. He didn't. It wasn't until the Final Four year. John Jacobs winning season each of the first 2 years with 2 entirely new rosters. 2 entirely new rosters. Okay? Your number 1 scorer, Trey Carroll. Your number 2 scorer, Caleb Glenn. Your number 3 scorer, Bon Miller. Your number 4 scorer, Montez Voikiatitis. All of them left. All of them left after last year. Okay? So that's all I'm saying. John Jacobs at FAU has built from scratch back-to-back rosters and has had winning years both years and hosted an NIT game. Okay? So yes, Mark, to your point, we all want to see FAU closer to the top of the AAC. Yes, undoubted, agreed, 1,000% on board. Don't want to celebrate 17-win seasons. Yes, correct. But there does need to be a little bit of recent history context placed on all of this. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard because you came excruciatingly close to playing for a national championship in recent memory, right? So I understand that. But it's going to have to be about consistency. And if winning seasons and hopefully 20-win seasons start becoming consistent, then that's what John Jacobs is striving for. And I think that there's actually a better base there than maybe is possible to wrap your head around right now. But I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging anything. But FAU is still a job where there needs to be, and this is any job, but especially in FAU, where things went from very little to very much in a short amount of time, very little notoriety, very little known about your school. You weren't a factor at all in college basketball. You were a nobody in college basketball, and basically overnight, you turned into a national brand, and you have national television in your gym night after night after night after night after night. You have seats that hadn't been used in decades that all of a sudden are being filled routinely. That's tough to keep up with in any business, let alone this era of college basketball out of Florida Atlantic. Okay? So most other teams in the conference have a practice gym. Most other teams in the conference, they have a little bit of that infrastructure. FAU has had to, from basement level, within a handful of years, have to erect their NIL capabilities, and then you include rev share in that equation. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but FAU is very competitive in the NIL space, football and basketball, in the American. We're not talking Memphis resources. We're not talking USF resources. Tulsa made a huge commitment this past offseason. We're not talking Wichita State resources because that's the number one team in that athletics department. We're not talking that. But I think that John Jacobs has done a fantastic job of roster acquisition, player acquisition with the resources he has, back-to-back years of having to really turn over the entire roster. And that's just going to be a reality. Retention's hard, even for programs flush with cash. It's hard. It's hard. I mean, listen, Chad Baker-Massara left Auburn this past offseason being offered 7 figures, over $1 million, because another transfer coming in was offered $2 million, and he got offended, and he left for USC. At least that's why allegedly he went to USC, and now he's kicked off that team. Okay? So it's hard. But back-to-back years, and I know I'm soapboxing it, and the season's not over. And I think we can have a further discussion about this, and should, once the season's over. But yes, you want to finish higher than 5th and especially 7th this year in the American. But you also have to acknowledge that John Jacobs has the most wins of any Division I head coach in his first 2 years in the history of the program. And he's had to do it with very little ability to retain any of his top players. Okay? And by ability, I mean chance, period. Nothing he can do. Okay? All right. Back to the chat here. Craig, this season's been so depressing. I've not been participating in extracurricular activities like this because of the season. I think that's what he meant. Well, I think the depressing part, maybe not, I don't know if I'd use depressing. Frustrating for sure. I mean, no doubt frustrating. How close FAU has been to this being a 20-win season and being a top 4 seed, maybe a top 2 seed. First, the injuries. All right, we know that, been there, done that. We've beaten that to death. But even despite that, East Carolina game, should have won that. That was the most disappointing effort of the season. I don't even think there's a close second. That was the most. You know what it actually started with? Started with the loss to UCF before Christmas. Devin Vanderpool plays, FAU wins that game. FAU was better than UCF. I don't care if Knights fans want to try and tell me otherwise. FAU was better than UCF at Disney World. Better than them. Better than them. Okay? And then there was the East Carolina loss, which was inexcusable. That's the most inexcusable loss of the year. The Tulsa loss, where they tried to hand it to FAU, and FAU just could not take it 2 different times. Should have beaten USF. FAU is better than USF. Over 45 minutes of basketball. Deserved to win that. Completely shut down Isaiah Nelson. Learned lessons from the first time they played. He's going to be the player of the year. The what ifs. You come back from down 15 in the second half against Rice, and then you do nothing on offense the final 3 minutes. Johan Sissoko rolls a layup off the rim with a second left at North Texas. Then on the inbound, he never finds Josiah Parker to try and win it. Tulane, Cannon Carlisle gets in between decisions and just hands the ball to the defender to lose that game on a final possession to force overtime. So there's been a lot of what-ifs. I think that, I don't want to use the word depressing, but I totally get the sentiment, Craig. I know where you're coming from. The frustration has been the what-if of this year. There wasn't what if last year. Like, that team was that team. This team's ceiling is higher, in my opinion. It's been the what if this year. Let's see. Craig again. I'm a George Mason grad student, so my other team's also been disappointed. Yeah, I'm surprised about that. I thought George Mason was going to be in the A-10 race. The way that high major teams turned on the NIT, we may still have a chance at that. We'll see how many players will stay. Yeah, I don't want to get into roster retention yet. That's an after the season thing. I already have some thoughts on that. I don't want to get to that yet. As far as the NIT is concerned, I did some digging because I have no life and I bury my head in my laptop. It's why, if you follow me on Twitter at KLV Says, I had correct all of the tiebreakers in an American conference that could have had 5, kind of 5, 9, and 9 teams. I had accurately, correctly, 2 weeks ago, all the scenarios laid out for you and your consumption in the American Conference tournament. Which other play-by-play voice is doing that, not only in the American, but anywhere? The answer? Nobody but me, yours truly, Ken LaVicka. Here's the NIT situation. So in the NIT, an automatic bid is given to an NCAA tournament championship winner, or I'm sorry, a regular season championship winner that doesn't make the NCAA tournament. And they have what they call a KNIT rating, K-N-I-T, KNIT rating of 125 or better. So what is a KNIT ranking, you ask? So keep in mind, winning a regular season championship, not going to the NCAAs, being eligible for the NIT at large that way, that is not a thing, okay? That doesn't exist. That's not a thing. So you don't have to worry about that. But as far as the KNIT ranking is concerned, because FAU got in to the NIT last year without winning a regular season championship, KNIT is the average of the ESPN BPI, the KPI, the net ranking, the KenPom rating, the Torvik rating, and the newest metric that the committee uses to create the NCAA tournament in all the seedings, which is wins against bubble. There's 7 metrics there, okay? I may have forgotten one, I don't know. But you take all those combined, you divide by 7, that gives you your KNIT ranking, okay? Last year, Florida Atlantic was within the 125 KNIT rating at 124.7. FAU this year is 3 points behind that at 127.9. But there were 3 teams last year that made the NIT with KNIT rankings lower than where FAU currently sits at 127.9. That was Wichita State at 135, UC Riverside at 137, and San Jose State at 178. So the NIT very much still in the equation for FAU if they don't win 5 times in Birmingham. And again, I'm planning on them doing that, and that's why I'm packing 5 damn different outfits there in Birmingham for the games starting on Wednesday. Okay? Now, we do see a lot of teams that decide not to play out of disappointment, especially the high major teams. A lot of them do pass on the NIT. You now have the Crown tournament as well. Tulane went to that last year. The reason FAU got its invite to the NIT, so Memphis wins the American Conference tournament, okay? They go to the NCAA tournament. UAB played in the NIT, and Tulane played in the Crown tournament in Vegas. FAU then became the next attractive option out of the American. So basically option number 3. So they got in, and then Wichita State was a late ask to get in. Obviously, FAU being the 7 seed, it's going to be a little bit longer to get to them. You never know who might pass. The NIT is less likely this year unless FAU shoots up the KNIT here and goes on a run and at least gets to maybe the semifinal. So, yeah, the NIT is still very much in the discussion, okay? But right now it's less so. The CBI, maybe. CBI is a thing, too. Go back up to Daytona, play in that same gym. Maybe. Right now, my gut would tell me FAU would be considered more for the CBI than they would the NIT or the Crown Invitational. But a lot can happen over the next week. A lot can happen over the next week. Final couple of minutes here to get in the chat. You have another couple of minutes if you want to throw anything at me in the chat here. Craig, have you heard anything about the NIL collective fundraising? Has it increased? I have no idea. You're going to have to ask me in the offseason. I have no. Hey, what I'll do, we'll get Brian White on here in the offseason, and we'll talk about it. We'll get Brian White on here, and we'll dive into that a little bit. And I do think it'll be good for you guys to hear just where FAU is in relation to everybody else in the conference. Think about this, though, just for context. Florida Atlantic, 17 wins. Florida Atlantic had a chance to be the 4 seed going into the final day of the American Conference. And Memphis, who is number 1 in NIL in the American, plays at the NBA gym, bankrolled by FedEx. They needed to fight, claw, bite their way into making the American Conference tournament. Okay? Highest paid coach, most expensive roster, and that may help you sleep better tonight. I know it does me. Jordan. And again, final couple of minutes for the chat here because got to get the kids to bed. Jesus, this has been over an hour. You guys, I'm glad you're hanging with me. I appreciate that. And again, we are routinely hitting triple figures here on these live editions of the Florida Atlantic Voice. May start turning this thing into all live all the time, the way this is going. But that's all a testament to you and how much support you give it. Who knew that a tiny little FAU, our quaint little school, we could be having basically live sports talk shows for FAU fans on the interwebs that are racking up triple-digit viewers and getting bigger every single time. I appreciate you guys. I mean, absolutely killing it. Thank you. It's easy for me to set these things up. It's harder for you to make the time to jump in and weigh in and consume, and you do it, and I appreciate that. Jordan, does USF has a chance of getting into the tourney if they get to the American final? Seen some bracketology where they're next 4 out. I don't know. They're 49 in the net right now. They're 49 in the net right now, and the 49 is still a little bit too far out, I think, for USF. And I don't know what USF's going to be able to, how much more ground they're going to be able to make up in the net through the course of the NCAA tournament. I think USF is good enough to be an at-large team. I think they have the pieces to be an at-large team. This is not the typical USF fan being delusional. We're going to the ACC. We're going to the Big Ten. They're delusional. I mean, USF fans are the most delusional fan base on the planet. But in this case, they have a team good enough to not only be an at-large bid, but win a game in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. But the net is not in their favor. If they had another week of the regular season, they may have been in a spot to be an at-large. But in the same vicinity, North Texas, that's where North Texas sat the year FAU went to the Final Four, and nobody was talking about North Texas as an at-large bid, even though they probably had a case to make. They tried, but it fell on deaf ears, right? So USF, I still think their only path is the American Conference Tournament Championship, unless something stunning happens. And I have seen the same brackets you have. Lunardi doesn't currently have him or have USF in his first 4 out, or even his next 4 out, like you laid out, Jordan. I have seen some where it's next 4 out, but I think that it's more AQ than it is at large for USF. Jordan, you're the best, man. He's talking about me. Thanks, Jordan. I remember 10-ish years ago winning 9 or 10 games and might have been 100 people at those games. Unbelievable where we're at now. Yeah. This is why I don't want to throw cold water on the whole thing and act like there aren't standards now that have to be upkept. When I bring up, well, it used to be this and now it's this, that's not to just blindly dismiss fans. This is not to blindly dismiss fans. I'm not doing that. All I'm saying is that I'm going to be honest with you guys. The chances of going back to a Final Four, there's a good chance that all of us will be long dead before that happens again, okay? It's the most miraculous The most miraculous occurrence in the history of college sports. But Indiana won a college football championship. F that. FA freaking U going to the Final Four? That's way more miraculous, okay? So perspectives change a lot when something like that happens. And we, at the very least, want to see our team have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament year after year after year after year after year. Okay? That's what we expect now that we've seen those, that peak. We had a fingertip on the peak, right? So yeah, I get it. It is disappointing not to go back to the NCAA tournament last year. It is disappointing to finish 7th this year. It is disappointing all the what-ifs during the course of the season. I just bring up John Jacobs having the most wins of any coach through his first 2 years to try and suggest to you that though it doesn't feel like it, there is a consistency there that maybe is tough to discern because of the fact that the NCAA tournament didn't happen last year, and it's going to be quite the ride this year, this time around, okay? That's all I'm trying to do. Obviously, the standard has changed exponentially, and it can't go back to what it was, Michael Curry. It can't go back to what it was, late Jarvis. It can't. It can't. It can't go back to Rex Walters. It can't. It's got to be 20 wins or bust. And I'm not saying anything that John Jacobs has not told me and would not endorse. It's got to be 20 wins or bust, NCAA tournament. You know what? Didn't hit 20 wins. Could hit 20 wins. Could hit 20 wins. And if FAU does hit 20 wins, you know what that means? They're 80 minutes away from an NCAA tournament. Okay? So that's, I am not trying to kneecap. I'm not trying to kneecap the, and paint this unnecessarily sunshiny picture of what this is, because what this is finishing 7th place in the regular season. Yeah. It's not the standard that's been set. Okay? But just understand, this is the first go-around for FAU ever with no roster retention ever. and Doug Gottlieb said after Green Bay was knocked out of the Horizon League tournament that, this league, there's a reason that it is the breeding ground. It's the minor leagues for all the big conferences. Doug, I appreciate the sentiment. I understand the sentiment, but come on, man. If you think that the Horizon League is the minor leagues for these high majors, I'm sorry, brother. Look at the best player on Michigan right now, Yaxel Lendeborg, UAB. The minor leagues is actually the American, and that's been proven. Okay? So, but that's my point. That's what John Jacobs is fighting against. That's what every team is fighting against. UAB has 20 wins. Guess who played a much harder non-conference schedule? FAU, because John Jacobs scheduled it that way. Would you rather, I know 20 wins is fun, but there also needs to be context to 20 wins. Do you have 20 wins playing 3 D2, D3 NAIA teams and teams with net in the 270s? Or do you take some swings? And FAU took some swings, and they went on the road at St. Mary's, and they played UCF, who's going to go to the NCAA tournament. I don't know. Everybody has their own outlook on that. But, yes, the goal is always going to be 20 wins and competing for a conference championship. And did FAU fall short of that in the regular season? The answer to that is yes. Cyrus, frustrating season, especially seeing Matas and Trey having pretty good seasons elsewhere. All in all, optimistic about the future. And I think that's extremely level-headed, Cyrus. Frustrating season for sure. For sure. I would think if you could think of a frustrating season just laying in bed at night at 3 a.m. and your mind's racing, you might just think, without having any context or have any previous knowledge, you might blueprint the season FAU has had. Injuries, close losses, the entire thing. Matas and Trey having pretty good seasons elsewhere. That's part of the frustration, right? Matas, he came a raw, green, not even close to ripe 7-footer that couldn't speak any English last year and has turned into a millionaire at Texas because of the coaching and development that he got at FAU. And unfortunately, there was no way Florida Atlantic could even come close to cashing in on the fruits of their labors after year one, because Texas, one of the donors found some money in his pocket, and it happened to be $1 million. And they said, "Hey, Matas, come here." And he's like, "All right, I'm coming." Trey earned the right to go get paid. Trey earned the right to go prove once and for all how good a player he was. I think Trey at times felt a little bit underutilized by the previous staff at FAU. And John Jacobs opened the door for him. And then Trey Carroll got the opportunity to become a first-team Big East. He's the leading scorer in the Big East. Holy hell, right? Like, how crazy is that? Cyrus. This season very much reminded me of the 2011-2012 campaign. Team was better than their record. Maybe they find the magic in Bama and get hot. That 2011-2012 team, though, I'm not sure I've ever told this story, and I'll expand on it maybe in the offseason. But they're definitely, with about 2 months left to go, there was a mutiny in that locker room for the most part. There's a reason that Ray Taylor didn't come back, went to FIU. There's a reason Dennis Maven followed suit. That whole year fell apart, actually, when Siena came down with 6 players due to injury or dismissals or ineligibility, and Siena beat FAU, and the season avalanched after that. This is different, obviously. There's no mutiny. This team has much more. You remember, that was a losing season. Like, that was a horrendous season. FAU had, 12 wins that year? So this FAU team, it's been more what if, starting the year 353 in experience, as opposed to falling short of expectation and the team falling apart, both on the floor and in the locker room. This will be our final here. Anthony, question to the conference tournament. How does Charlotte get the 5 seed when FAU won head-to-head? Oh, boy, am I glad you asked this. You might want to get out a pen and paper. And you might see my brain leak out of my ears trying to, off the top of my head, convey this to you. Okay, here's the reason. Okay. So, first and foremost, there was a 3-way tie at 9-9 between FAU, North Texas, and Charlotte. Put a pin on that. FAU, North Texas, Charlotte, all were 9-9 in the league. Okay? Here are the tiebreakers in the American Conference. Obviously, you have your head-to-head. Okay? If there are 3 or more teams with the same record, and they all have the same record after a round robin between one another, then you move to the next tiebreaker. But here's what I'm talking about with the round robin. FAU went 1-0 against Charlotte and 0-1 against North Texas. 1-1 FAU. Charlotte went 0-1 against FAU, went 1-0 against North Texas. 1-1. North Texas went 1-0 against FAU, went 0-1 against Charlotte. 1-1. So in that 3-way round robin tiebreaker, every team 1-1. So we move on. And then you start going to the top of the conference and comparing records of those 3 9-9 teams to the top of the conference until you get an advantage down the line. This is where it gets backwards, and this is where I hate it, and this is where, in Birmingham, I'm going to go to the powers that be in the American Conference and tell them this doesn't feel right, okay? So USF, number 1 in the league. North Texas, Charlotte, FAU, nobody beat USF. So then you move on to Wichita State, the 2 seed. Guess who beat Wichita State? FAU. Guess who beat Wichita State? Charlotte. So that should mean that USF or North Texas booted from the 3-way tie. That leaves FAU and Charlotte head-to-head. Who won? FAU. That should place FAU at the 5, in my opinion. But that's not what the tiebreaker reads. When you start going from top of the league and start trying to find an advantage, the seed doesn't matter. The record does. So, yes, Wichita State's the 2 seed, but Tulsa and Wichita State had the same 13-5 record. So you're not just comparing yourself, all three of yourselves, to Wichita State. You add Tulsa in the mix. So Wichita State and Tulsa combined against FAU and Charlotte and North Texas. Guess what? Guess what? Each team 1-4. Tied. So you think based on seeding, there's a tiebreaker. No, it goes against record. And FAU and Charlotte and North Texas were all 1-4 against Wichita State / Tulsa. North Texas beat Tulsa. So then you move on. You head to UAB. All three teams 1-0 against UAB because UAB couldn't win at home in the league year. So you're still tied. So then you're the 9-9 teams. You can't compare each other against yourselves. You've already done that in the round robin. So you go to Temple. And you go to Tulane, and you go to Memphis. Guess what? All three teams 4-2 against that trio with the same records. So then that brings you've gone all the way down the conference, haven't been able to find an advantage. And where do you end up on? Rice. So would you believe it if I told you Florida Atlantic could not claim the 5 seed and a bye and came out on the wrong end, on the back end, on the last end of a 3-way tie instead between Charlotte, North Texas, and FAU? Should have had the 5 if it went by the seeding, which any rational human being would do, set up conference tiebreakers. But because you had to add Tulsa in the mix because they had the same record, FAU goes from winning that tiebreaker, getting the bye 5th seed, to falling all the way to the back, the caboose of the tiebreaker, and finishing 7th because of the 11th place team outside looking in Owls of Rice. Ultimately, in this scenario, FAU's loss in Houston to Rice was the difference between a bye and having to play the first day. So I hope that cleared it up. And I hope you haven't gone into a coma with that explanation. But Anthony, that is as clearly and as precisely as I can put it as to why FAU did not get the 5th seed over Charlotte, because North Texas got involved, because a 3-way round robin got involved, and then a cockamamie translation of an extended tiebreaker got involved. And that's why FAU is at 7. But credit to me. I had it all there correctly for 2 weeks leading in. At the airport coming back from Wichita State, myself and assistant head coach A.D. Malhotra and associate head coach Jordan Fee were breaking down all of the scenarios. And I did second guess myself on what I had initially put out, because what I thought was with Wichita State, the 2, like I had said, I thought it was going to come down to FAU and Charlotte after you head to that second part of the tiebreaker or third part of the tiebreaker. But then I did get confirmation from the American that night. I emailed them and they said, no, it's record. It's not seed. So that's why. That's why. So a reminder, 8:30-ish the pregame, because everything's ish at the conference tournament. 8:30-ish pregame. 9-ish tip, FAU Temple, round 3. Good Boca versus evil Philly Owls matchup. Winner to play North Texas, the Mean Green, on Thursday night in Birmingham, Alabama, at the Birmingham Convention Center. Hey, folks, appreciate you. Appreciate you not only jumping in the chat, but appreciate you watching. A lot of you all hung in there for the entire 1 hour, 24 minutes. You guys are the best, man. You guys are the best. Like, we talk about FAU basketball, how far it's come. How about the fan base, man? How about the fan base? You got damn near 200 people on a Monday night hanging out, chatting live about FAU basketball. Pfft, come on. Come on. There aren't a lot of schools in the American Conference that are doing that. And so that's why I love doing it. And it's why I love putting myself out there more than a typical play-by-play voice at a university. So thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for jumping in the chat. Thanks to Robes Law Group, personal injury lawyers, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com, the best damn personal injury lawyers in South Florida in an area just crawling with them. Robes Law Group is the best. ROBES, robeslawgroup.com. Car accident, motorcycle accident, slip and fall. Get at them. Don't be afraid. They are here for you. Their track record, impeccable. Robes Law Group, ROBES, robeslawgroup.com. All right, folks, I'm flying tomorrow to Birmingham. We'll talk to you late-ish Wednesday night from Birmingham, Alabama, Florida Atlantic, and Temple. Fox Sports 640, foxsports640.com, free Fox Sports 640 app, Fox Sports South Florida app, more appropriately. Talk to you then. This has been the Florida Atlantic Voice presented by Robes Law Group. Bye-bye.